it's my lame Chris Ramsey impersonation. I'm wearing this hula girl hat because YouTube says that I need to look more friendly and relatable. So hopefully that's working. The marvelous floating Sharpie by Matthew Wright. I got this penguin magic. Okay, so why did I pick a Sharpie trick? Why did I pick a levitation trick? So I'll just give this as a bit of a lead in so you can kind of set a context to my review, because magicians have been very split on this trick. It seems like it came like boom out of the gate, and a lot of good things were said about it, and then never hear from it anymore, and I don't see anybody performing it. So possibly that's just because there's a lot of other stuff out right now, but I don't know. So for me, I love levitations. I mean, levitations, don't all magicians love levitations? I mean, the trick is it's hard to find a really good levitation. I do a lot of, or at least I try to do a lot of different levitations, and only a couple come even close to being what I consider a good levitation, like well, not mine, but the I don't even know what you call it, the little standing levitation that I do. I'll show the clip. Check out the clip. Okay, so I'm assuming you're back now, because I've never had to do that fake go to the clip thing before. I have a bunch of levitations. Let's actually see if we can look at a few different ones. Go to the clip. Okay, I guess we're back. Anyway, I like levitations, and I haven't completely given up on this methodology yet. Magicians will know what I'm talking about, but it can be a pain. But I also like Sharpie stuff. Big fan of the Sharpie, and I do all kinds of Sharpie tricks, but I've never really seemed to be able to get it together with Sharpies. I never, they do sort of represent the modern day cool magician's wand, like the hoodie and the cool magician, the street magician. So this is like the present day magician's wand, and you can do a lot of different tricks with it, and I haven't really gotten anything together with it yet. I've been working on I don't know what this is called, with the coin there. I've been trying to do the old coin on the hand, and you go like that, and the coin's gone, and then you take the lid off and you pour it out of the lid, something like that. Anyway, but I really like Sharpie magic, so I thought, what the heck? The price point was $35, so I mean, it was reasonable for what you're getting. So let me start from there. So the reason why I decided to review it, not just because I like levitations and I'm trying to get the Sharpie magic wand thing together, is there's a principle here being used. Not that well, you can tell from my performance. I'm just getting a little better at it every week. But the principle, which Matthew Wright mentions in the tutorial that Jeff McBride, the fancy guy with the masks you probably know, first showed him, and Matthew believed that the first time it was recorded, this particular principle, was by Juan Tamarez. Juan's that incredible, I think he's Spanish magician with the long hair, and he's funny and just absolutely incredible, just a legend. And this principle is one that I only sort of do, and in fact, I think I'm going to go to a couple of more clips here. I'll try to strip them from either trailers or the tutorial and show you what I mean here, how this principle can apply to different things. Let's look at it quick.
Infinity wallet, the floating chip finale from Anti-Gravity, or the card revelation from New Horizons, all use the same mechanical principle.
Okay, guess we're back. You can see there that the principle of levitation and sort of a horizontal moving effect can apply in a lot of different ways, and I think the principle is worth the price of the trick. I mean, it's not an easy trick. It's a trick that's going to take a lot of practice, just like the I probably showed in the video there, the floating coin, the Fearsons, Fabulous Fearsons. I think he originally did it with a cigarette, that particular float. I don't smoke cigarettes, so I do it with, like a lot of people do, with the spinning coin now. It takes about that kind of practice to get decent at. It's not easy like a floating dollar bill. It's not that much harder, but I think the principle is worth the 35 bucks. Absolutely, for sure. So let's dig into it though. I've made some notes, and so I can be a little more helpful than useful. So a little more helpful than useful, like that makes sense. Okay, so number one, can you use the Sharpie? More importantly, can you hand it out? You can use the Sharpie, like a real Sharpie. I mean, it's a real Sharpie. As far as handing it out goes, this is what I'll tell you. If you were handing it out to have someone sign something, like you had it, I mean, I don't even know where you'd use this in an effect. Probably just to introduce a Sharpie in your Sharpie routine. I mean, that's been my idea, is to do a bunch of different Sharpie tricks, but just use them as sort of a running gag in between maybe a bunch of card work, so that the card work or coin work doesn't get old. So if you were going to hand this out to sign a card, it would work perfectly. That's to say, you wouldn't necessarily want to hand it out for examination. I mean, this is going to be a little bit of crowd control here. It will pass and be useful just as a regular Sharpie, but that's probably the intention, is to hand it to a spectator. They go, "Whoa, how did you do that?" They sign the card, and then you get it back. So you can do that. The instructions are excellent. The instructions are online. Matthew's a real character of a guy. He does some interesting stuff. He shows himself teaching a fellow. If you know anything about the marvelous floating Sharpie, you probably heard. He shows himself teaching a person from scratch how to do it, and that kind of helps. And he's pretty detailed about the tutorial, but this stuff is fussy. I mean, I'm not going to just outright say what's going on here, but this stuff is fussy, so there's a lot of stuff you're going to have to just learn through practice. But the tutorial is fairly thorough, and there's some nice theory at the end. Sounds like my chihuahua's getting into it. Boom, 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 boom. Well, there was one problem, and he does address it in the tutorial because people had problem with it. They had issues with a particular thing about setting up the pen and not breaking the pen working with it. I found that to be very problematic, just like people had complained. He said he's never had any issue, but he did show some tips, some very nice, thoughtful tips about dealing with it, but I couldn't use those tips. I had to figure it out on my own. So just like working with this type of levitation in general, you are going to have patience. I mean, it's knacky. Not so much knacky to perform as it is to just deal with the mechanics and the gimmicks and everything in general. So you're going to need patience. And as always, if you have any questions about this, and I have a few questions, anybody else who does this, please let me know, because I have a few questions of things that I haven't really ironed out and solved, and I have a few sort of tips that you may or may not know. Matthew has an excellent tip, and all I'll say is it's related to the nose, right? If you do this effect, you'll know what I mean about the nose. I've taken that tip. I had no idea how important that tip would be about the nose, and I've taken it the full Monty right to well, let's just say coconuts, coconut derivative. Anyway, what else? Well, if you're a worker, so here's the thing. If this was something you were going to work, if this was something you're going to perform quite a few times in an evening, I would prep a lot of it. You know, I'd have, just like the whole Sharpie routine, I'd have a bunch of Sharpies. You know, if you're going to do the Sharpie thing, you gotta have a bunch of Sharpies. I mean, unless you're going 100% pure sleight of hand, I would be prepped. I would be prepped for this. So if things go wrong, you have lots of backup. Okay, and that's probably something you could just do and then go practice. If I had to do this over again, I would have done a lot more prep. And then got into practicing. If you want more clarification on that, just reach out to me. You know, when it comes to the pricing thing, I mean, there's some crafting here to do. This is not a trick you do. This is not a trick you do right out of the box. And I think, although I might be wrong, I have no experience with this kind of thing, so I'm just shooting my mouth off here, but I think we could have had this be a $20 download for magicians with you know, a lot of experience to learn the principle and set up their own thing, or slightly higher than 35 bucks, which is what it went for you know, maybe 45 bucks, but ready to go out of the box, and then with another one that you learn to set it up. I mean, bottom line, if you can't do the crafting here, you're not going to do this effect anyway, because it's one of those things that needs reset. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It needs reset regularly, especially when you're initially learning it, like any of this particular type of levitation. So have that in mind. And I think that's about it. Those are my basic overview opinions. Yeah, that's, you know, I'm saying here, what did I say? I can't even read my own writing, for goodness sake. You know, this is a type of thing where I don't know if my performance did it any justice, but I'm gonna stick with performances. I'm always gonna have lots of performances. In fact, I can't imagine I do any videos at this point without a performance. I mean, that gives people a chance to just pop in, see a performance. If it's something that interests you, you can watch the rest of the video for discussion. I'll probably get into more theory discussion later on if I get a little bored of the review thing. But I am going to always do performances, and I think from a theory standpoint, I'm going to start to review not just new stuff. I'm always getting the new stuff, but review some stuff from the recent past. Like, I'd like to do a full review and performance of Spectro Touch, probably the Watch too. You know, I love Joe Miranda's stuff, but it's very pricey, so a lot of people want, you know, more information in a review, and plus maybe some even older stuff, and some old stuff like Volant, my ring to chain thing that Alan Rorson came up with. You know, right out of the box, it was absolute crap, but I stuck with it, and I ordered my own self some stuff from Amazon and that, which wasn't that expensive to do, and it's really been worthwhile. So I might go back to some old effects to review, because they're still for sale, but so much new stuff comes out they get forgotten. and hopefully that'll help me also blend into some discussion about theory, and hopefully that's not boring. But again, I'm going to stick with performances so that there's always something to see at the beginning, and then you can just move on, come back to it on another day if you have more time, or you end up thinking that you're going to get into it, and I'm really rambling on now. So that's it. Have a good one. Peace out.